Who was Julius Kuperjanov? Julius Kuperjanov was born on October 11, 189 in Pskov Oblast, but later moved to Vanakust where his ancestors lived. In 1904 Kuperjanov went to Sipe school, and in 1910 he went into Tartu Teachers Seminar. After finishing school in 1914 Kuperjanov asked to become Cambia school teacher.
On 26 February 1918, Kuperjanov married with Alice Kuperjanov. In February 1915, Kuperjanov was mobilized into the Russian army and plunged into the turmoil of the First World War. After a lineup exercise in Novgorod's reserve battalion, Kuperjanov was sent to the Petrograd Ensign School in the spring of the same year, after completing short-term ensign course. His ability to organize resulted in his consistent rise up the career ladder as an officer. With a contempt for death that amounts to heroism, he moved his subordinates from victory to victory in battles. There was no equal to him during the reconnaissance, and he quickly caught the attention of his superiors. In the orders of the day, he was widely praised and presented for awards. Within 2 years, he was promoted from ensign to Porachik chief lieutenant, and in the post from commander of the Scout Command to commander of the order. He greatly appreciated his comrades in battle, with whom he shared everything. He lived among them, ate soldiers' food with them, slept side by side in the trench porridge, and, if necessary, took the men to battle or reconnaissance. Kuperjanov was a recognized authority. The soldiers surrendered to his will on the only sign and followed him under the densest hail of bullets. Kuperjanov was awarded 7 times for his bravery in battles against the Germans Austrians. He was awarded the Order of St. Anna II, 3 and 4 for the sword, the Order of St. Stanislav 2 and 3, and the Order of St. Vladimir, the 4th rank, as well as the 4th rank of the George Cross. He had been nominated for an honorary degree of captain and George's sword and other honors from Russia and allies, but he lost them because of the revolution that began.
On July 19, 1917, Kuperjanov was seriously wounded in both thighs during one reconnaissance visit in the Baranovich region and was evacuated to Moscow. At the same time, Estonian Polk began to be founded in Estonia, and Kuperjanov, like thousands of his compatriots, had a well-understood desire to get there. However, it took several months for his wounds to heal, which is why he entered service only on 1 November in the Tartu-based Estonian Backup Infantry Battalion, where he was initially the commander of the order, but was soon promoted to assistant battalion commander. In the battalion, thanks to the influence of Latvian hunters, in the autumn of 1917, the Bolshevik moods took over, and Kuperjanov, as battalion commander, had to put all his energy into asserting great popularity among the battalion's soldiers. He was more willing to be listened to than more than the most eloquent speechwriters. Bolshevik commissars sent telegrams to Petrograd asking for this counter-revolutionary battalion to be disbanded. With the advent of the Germans and the Bolshevik retreat from Tartu in the spring of 1918, Kuperjanov organized the protection of the local city of Tartu and the entire county so that the passing Russian troops could not commit littering. With the advent of the German occupation, the formation of Estonian troops was completed. The Germans took away their weapons from everyone and disbanded the battalions they had created. Most of the officers, including Kuperjanov, were imprisoned and sent by train and on a walking march towards Riga. According to his wife Alice, Kuperjanov was the only one in Valga who managed to escape and return to Tartu, despite the strong guard of the Germans. Hiding in Lal's father's farm as well as at his wife's parents' farm in Cambia rural municipality, Kuperjanov began to organize an underground partisan detachment militia squads in Tartu County with full enthusiasm. Visiting from village to village and from farm to farm, he recruited faithful collaborators who, if necessary, were ready to take up arms to protect their homes. The documents necessary for the movement were forged on forms obtained from German commands. Confirmed data that Kuperjanov was the leader of the underground movement of the city of Tartu and the whole county, with whom the Tallinn Underground Committee also kept in touch. He also forwarded data on German movements to the intelligence service and, with the help of envoys, communicated with the Colonel Johann Leitner, who was in Petrograd. By July 1918, Kuperjanov had drawn up an exact mobilization plan and a list of men and chieftains had been appointed to the parishes, who, when the German troops left, had to take over immediately. There was a war with the Bolsheviks. Lieutenant Julius Kuperjanov was appointed commander of the Tartu County Defense League. Kuperjanov organized a guard service with the Defense League on the coast of Lake Peipus and, with the help of small numbers of troops, tried to slow down the pace of the Red Army's offensive. However, the forces were too unequal. The Estonian army and the Russian White Guard were not yet organized and could not resist the overwhelming forces of the Red Army. Kuperjanov kept to near Tartu infantry regiment and some of the men of the county defense league a long time ago the enemy offensive. However, the operation of the Russian White Guard on Vru Highway forced our troops to leave Tartu on the night of December 20, 1918. Kuperjanov, along with a few dozen students of Hugo Treffner Gymnasium and members of the Defense League, stayed at Porman Manor. Here he organized his army, provided military equipment, and mobilized men. On Christmas Eve 1918, Porman Manor laid the foundation for the Tartu County Partisan Battalion, which became one of the most glorious volunteer strike units in the War of Independence. The end of the year was still spent on organizing work, while in the first days of the new year, combat operations began. The daring raids and assaults of the Kuperjanovians reached a depth of up to 40 kilometers in the rear of the opponent. Sometimes even when they penetrated to Tartu, confusion was caused among the Red Army and aroused the hope of the population. The Kuperjanov devils were very feared by the Bolsheviks. At the same time, only one man, Oswald Karm, was lost slightly wounded with the intention of blowing up the Jiva railway bridge. In the early morning of January 5, 1919, the first village in southern Estonia was liberated Sadakla, after which they wanted to take steps to liberate Tartu already from 7 January, but the 2nd Division, and the 2nd Division, and the 2nd Division were liberated. Due to the passivity of the infantry regiment, it was postponed. The movement towards Tartu was started on 10 January, and on 13 January two wide-gauge armored trains from under Haljala were joined against the will of their superiors near Jiva. Upon the liberation of Tartu during the general offensive of the People's Army, Kuperjanov's squad was the first to invade the city on January 14, 1919, with armored trains. From here, with the support of armored trains, they proceeded towards Elva, Ringu, Puka, and Sangostin. By hitting fierce battles, reached the site of Valga on January 30, 1919, where Payu Manor was also liberated for the first time. Oberst Hans Kamm, the new general manager of the Valga operation, who arrived at Sangost railway station now Sergulina, had to invade Valga from two sides west and north in cooperation with his Northern Sons battalions and our troops. Armored trains were unable to participate in this operation because, for known reasons, Oberst Kamm called the armored trains from under Payu Manor back to Sangost station on 30 January, as a result of which the Red Ones blew up the 3 bridges on the railway. Kuperjanov's partisans also wanted to keep Kamm away from the Valga operation, although the latter were still inside Payu Manor at the time. Of course, Kuperjanov was right, who stood up as a man of honor for his hugely successful battalion and was able to prevent the appointment of the reserve, because the liberated Payu Manor, where his subordinates were staying, was not sent to help not any soldiers of the Finnish battalion who arrived at Sangost station. On the morning of January 31st, Lieutenant Kuperjanov woke up at a.m. to meet with Major Snellman of the Finns and also to receive permission to re-liberate Payu Manor in a coordinated manner with Finnish battalions. It was over 10 o'clock when the clearance for the attack finally came, which meant a miss of the best time. Having gained an idea of the responsibility of the attack on the shoulders of his battalion, without the initial support of the Finns and without the cannons taken from him, Kuperjanov personally took charge of the 1.5 orders as battalion commander. In normal cases, the battalion commander does not have to do so and must not do so, but in this case the only right decision was to stay with his men in battle. The second route was 3/4 of a mile away by the verst under the fire of a red train by the railway and was not directly controlled by Kuperjanov. Oberst Kamm also lacked the railway rear fortification at all, which is why the fighters of the 2 route were in most of the area of great danger, where there was also no protection of Estonian armored trains. An hour after Kuperjanov was wounded, Finns units arrived in small parts along the Tartu-Valga highway, rushing straight into battle, thus losing a large part of their men. With great joint efforts, Payu Manor was liberated for the second time at 4:30 p.m. Most of the Finns, more than 700 men with an artillery battery, were sent by Oberst Kamm to the distant eastern arch of Payu Manor as the most important objective attack to blow up the Valga-Vru railway bridge. 2. Grab the opponent's retreating echelons. The moment Lieutenant Kuperjanov tried to observe the activities of the 2 route on the far side of the railway, a bullet fired from the red armored train penetrated through his left hand through his side and wounded his lung and kidney. The wounded commander was transported to Sangos station via the infirmary, but the train with the wounded did not leave until 6.5 hours later, which caused the death of the hero at the 4 clinic in Tartu due to the inflammations that had begun. Lieutenant Julius Kuperjanov's send-off took place in the Vanamune Concert Hall, where representatives of many societies in southern Estonia had gathered. The commander of the Southern Front, General Paul Martin Wetzer, and the delegates of Tartu and Valga were given the obituaries. Commander-in-Chief Johann Leydener expressed his condolences to the Tartu County Partisan Battalion on the occasion of the fall of the commander and initiated the renaming of the unit as Kuperjanov's Battalion. Julius Kuperjanov earned 3 Crosses of Liberty in 1 month of the War of Independence. During the years of Soviet occupation, his grave monument in Radi Cemetery in Tartu, the author of which is Jan Kur, one of Estonia's most renowned sculptors, became a kind of mecca for Tartu students and school children by lighting candles on an officially forgotten grave. His opposition to the occupation and the durability of his aspirations for independence were demonstrated. The Tartu Defense Battalion, also known as the Partisan Battalion formed by him, was renamed Kuperjanov's Partisan Battalion, and its successor was restored in 1992 and is still active in the Estonian Defense Forces today in Võru City, bearing the name Kuperjanov Infantry Battalion. When, after the War of Independence, on May 7, 1925, a women's group, the forerunner of the 2nd Division of the Women's Home Defense, was established in Tartu at the Brothers Chess Team of the Cross of Liberty. Alice Kuperjanov was among its founders. Ebba Serrel was elected chairwoman. Alice became deputy head of the department's board, the following year the secretary of the board, and in 1930 to chairwoman of the 2nd Division of the Women's Home Defense, which she remained until her death. Alice was also active at the level of the Women's Home Defense District in central management from 1927 to 1931. She performed the duties of treasurer of the district. From 1934 to 1938 she was the assistant chairwoman of the district, and from 1937 she was a member of the central management of the National Women's Home Guard, first as a secretary and later as a senior member of the catering department. In 1938, Alice led caterer courses at the Tondi Battle School, in which 147 women took part. In addition to the Women's Home Defense, Alice was able to act on the board of Tartu's Children's Aid, which organized catering for 200 children in need, where the dress committee was engaged in collecting donations and distributing clothes to poorer families. She was also one of the founders of the Tartu Hostess Society. He was also a member of the Institute of Home Education and was among the leaders of the Education Day held in Tartu in 1936. Politically, Alice had identified herself as a member of Jan Nissen's National Center Party. She was also a member of the Tartu County Committee of the party and chairwoman of its women's section, and in 1930 she was a member of the Tartu City Council. During the occupation of Estonia by the Soviet Union, Alice, like other leaders of the Women's Home Guard, came into the sights of the NKVD. He was arrested on June 14, 1941, and sent to a prison camp in the Sverdlovsk region. She was accused of belonging to a counter-revolutionary Defense League organization from 1925 to 1940 and of being the wife of a White Party commander who fought against the Red Army from 1918 to 1919. The decision of the special meeting read shoot, confiscation of property. Alice Kuperjanov was executed in a prison camp on July 17, 1942.